I never intended to own a lake. It started with a tired search through rural property listings, part daydream, part midlife crisis. I had been burned out from years in the city, and my job in software had gone fully remote after the pandemic. One evening, after a few drinks and some scrolling, I stumbled on an aerial photo of a weed-choked basin in the middle of 40 acres. The description was vague: old lake bed, once spring-fed, potential for restoration. As is. The price was shockingly low. 2 weeks later, I was signing paperwork. When I visited the property for the first time in person, I saw exactly why it had been so cheap. The lake was little more than a crater lined with cracked mud and scattered junk, rusted shopping carts, tires, and a sofa inexplicably embedded in the shallows. But the bones were there. The natural bowl shape, the faint smell of water in the dirt, the way the surrounding land dipped and cradled the lake bed, it could live again. And I needed something to bring back to life, too. I threw myself into the project. I hired a hydrologist to study the old spring flow and water table. Turns out the spring hadn't completely dried up, it was just clogged and diverted by decades of neglect. I cleared invasive plants and worked with a contractor to dredge the lake bed. We removed literal tons of trash and debris, then reshaped the shoreline with natural stone and planted native grasses. It took every spare hour and more money than I care to admit, but after a year, the lake began to refill. Rain helped. So did hope. By the second summer, the lake had become a mirror again, reflecting cotton candy skies in the evenings, alive with frogs, dragonflies, and the occasional deer at dawn. The birds came first: cranes, herons, songbirds, then turtles, even fish from nearby streams that found their way through the connected wetlands. I stocked it modestly, just enough to keep the ecosystem balanced. I named it Lily Mere, though no one but me ever called it that. For the first time in years, I felt peace. I spent weekends in a small cabin I built near the water's edge, brewing coffee on the porch and watching the sunrise burn away the mist. Sometimes friends visited, but mostly it was just me and the water. Until the HOA showed up. It started with a letter. Generic stationery, no names, just the Lakeside Homeowners Association, and an invoice for $1,237 in annual dues. Maintenance and shared access for community lakefront amenities, it read. I stared at it in disbelief. First of all, my property wasn't even in their neighborhood. My land sat just beyond their outermost lot lines, separated by a dense tree line and a gravel surface.